Warning. This is a satirical analysis of Nekopara intended for mature audiences and people who can differentiate between reality and fantasy. If you are not one of those people, stop watching now. Enjoy. Oh boy. Well, as you all know, I love Nekopara, but this one was a little bit of a doozy. Now, it's just my personal opinion, but I believe that Volume 3 is the weakest entry in the series. Mostly because I feel that the story spread itself too thin in an attempt to include H-scenes for all the Nekos, and would have done better if the Azuki Coconut H-scene was cut in favor for further developing Cinnamon and Maple. Now that the depressing part is over, I'm Axel the Weeb, and I love Nekopara. And this episode will build on some of the concepts from last episode, so if you haven't seen Part 3 yet, I'd suggest watching that first. Volume 3 starts off by showing a normal slice of life day at the shop, and at one point Chocola bursts into the kitchen to report all the things that they are out of, and Vanilla chimes in to say that they are being overworked. Cashao responds to this by saying, "I do compensate you for the work that you do." Cashao then praises Azuki for her ability to make cakes and says that she's just copycatting Cashao, and that she isn't just doing this for the praise. Later on, Shigure talks about Cinnamon's eternal estrus being a problem and then starts foreshadowing the events of Volume 3. And one of my favorite parts of Volume 3 happens when Shigure starts to fantasize about receiving an affection report from all 6 Nekos every day. Then Cashao goes, "What the hell is an affection report?" Followed by Shigure doing her best himidari laugh, and Cashao saying that she's lost it in more ways than one. It is at this point that Nekopara attains complete Skynet levels of self-awareness. In the final part of this scene, we see that the Nekos are being recognized by new customers because of Shigure's blog. A little girl runs into the shop to greet Chocola and the rest of the Minaduki Nekos and asks Cinnamon to do the thing. Cinnamon declines, causing the girl to go, "But you always do it in the videos." And I just love the look of distraught on Cinnamon's face as she too has now attained complete self-awareness. The girl's mom says that they came to Yokohama from Osaka, proving that Nekopara takes place in the real world. Shigure updates the blog with a story about the customers to lead us to the opening cutscene for Nekopara Volume 3. As Cashao and friends are on their way back from a delivery, Cashao starts to Japaneseism to Cinnamon and Maple about how he loves to make cakes that put a smile on people's faces. Maple then exposits about her upcoming character arc before shitting all over Cashao by saying that she doesn't need a player like him. After Cashao and friends get back to the shop, Chocola and Vanilla start to complain about being overworked, and Cashao says that they only have to work from open to close. And this leads us to the first and only good old-fashioned H-scene bait-and-switch, to the mandatory Neko grooming scene. Now, in this shot, I want you to pay attention to the orientation of the legs of the coffee table and the direction that Chocola and Vanilla are facing, because either one of two things must have happened for this shot to make any sense. Now, as we can see from this establishing shot, the orientation of the legs of the coffee table proved that the Nekos were sitting on this side of the couch, and because Cashao was on the other side of the couch to clip their nails, he can either phase through solid matter because he would be halfway through the wall, or they moved the couch and coffee table just to clip their nails, only to move the couch back for the establishing shots. While Cashao is clipping their nails, they all plan to go to the amusement park before the start of the first H-scene. Now, near the end of this episode, I'm going to gripe really hard about this first picture of this scene. The next day, we see all the Nekos at the amusement park, where Chocola and Vanilla get soaked on a water slide, Coconut almost chokes out Azuki on a Ferris wheel, and Maple and Cinnamon go through a haunted house. Once Cashao and friends take a break to have lunch, Cashao watches a video of Maple and Cinnamon singing and says that this happened 2 years ago. Oh, wow, if that video was taken 2 years ago, that means that Cinnamon and Maple are about 2.5 years old, and I have to wildly readjust my estimate on Azuki's age from about 9-ish to around 3.5 to 4. Then a band called Neko Witches starts to ask the crowd if anyone knows their song, and Cashao tries to get Maple to sing, but she's all like, "Nah, bro, I don't want to start my redemption arc yet." The band then calls out to Cinnamon, or as they like to call it, the bothered-looking cat girl in the magical girl costume, to which Cinnamon goes on stage to have her first E-scene. The Neko Witches say that Cinnamon can only be saved by the power of song, and Cinnamon calls out to Maple to save her. Maple reluctantly goes on stage to put on a performance, and this kickstarts her character arc. After the song, we get to see that Maple has no idea how to receive praise, while Shigure starts to talk about Neko growth cycles, and Cashao's like, "Oh no, not this again. What am I, the main protagonist of some harem anime?" Eventually, Cashao and friends return to the shop, and Maple is silently lamenting to herself. This lamentation causes Cinnamon to make a futile attempt at cheering Maple up. Later on, we see Maple on break upstairs, and she starts to ask Cashao about his attraction to catgirls. I love how Maple is the voice of reason for Nekopara because she brings up the fact that Cashao has a bunch of catpanions, causing Cashao to think of his catpanions and thinks to himself that he could never rank them. Eventually, Cinnamon goes on break and says that Maple has been in a mood ever since the amusement park. She pulls up the video of Maple singing, and all the comments refer to Maple as just a cat girl. And this is what was really getting Maple's panties in a bunch. As this scene starts to come to a close, we see Cinnamon desperately trying to use the computer in private because she only has pure Christian thoughts about Maple. Later on, Maple starts to accuse Cashao of overworking her because she isn't a catpanion. Cashao says that that isn't true, and then he Japaneseisms to Maple to inspire her to start singing again. Near the end of this scene, Maple calls out to Cinnamon to stop hiding. Now, considering the hearing ability of Nekos, Cinnamon could have probably stayed a lot further back and still heard the conversation between Cashao and Maple. Once Cinnamon comes out of hiding, she starts to cry to Maple about how she thought Maple hated her. They all say sorry, and eventually return to the shop to tell Shigure about the next arc of the story. On the next day off, Cashao and friends go to the music store so Maple can pick out a guitar. Maple says that she wants to buy it with her own money, so I guess that proves that she is actually paid in cash instead of cake. When they get to the store, Maple enters snob mode and asks for a really nice guitar that will suit her personality, and immediately gets sticker shock before choosing a cheaper guitar for beginners. Once Cashao and friends are back at the shop, Maple starts practicing while Shigure exposits about how everyone except for Maple will be written out of the scene. Later on, Cashao is done with prep for the rest of the day, and he goes upstairs to see that Maple is still there, and then Maple embodies the true form of the Japanese protagonist, and says that she'll train so hard that one day her power level will be high enough to defeat Frieza. The next day is the start of Cinnamon's redemption arc. Basically all that happens is they go bra shopping, and then a few days later we see the Nekos shutting down the store, and Cinnamon asks Cashao if Maple can go home early if she takes over her closing duties, and Cashao is fine with it. A few days later, Azuki and Coconut start to voice their concern about Cinnamon's distance from Maple, and it turns out that Cinnamon is doing her best to not interfere with Maple's practice. After the shop is closed, Cashao asks Cinnamon if this is really how she wants to help Maple. Cinnamon says she wants to do this because Maple helped her get used to the Minaduki household. Cinnamon then has a flashback in which she sums up the tragic backstory of every anime character ever. Then Cashao says that this isn't how best friends work because this is a one-sided sacrifice. Then the most Japanese thing ever happens as Maple was listening in the whole time. Maple is disappointed in Cinnamon for using her desire to support her as an excuse for not choosing her own path. Cinnamon says that it is her dream to support Maple, and then she basically swears a life debt to her. The next day is just a slice of life to show us that Azuki and Coconut have noticed that Cinnamon and Maple have made up, all the while building up to the Azuki-Coconut H scene. The next day, Cinnamon buys her keyboard, and true to her character, she wanted something to play in the background. When Cinnamon and Maple get back to the family house, they start to practice a little before Cinnamon starts to reminisce about the past. Cinnamon says that it would be nice to get along like they used to, and this causes Maple to freak out a little, saying that she was young and didn't know what she was doing. Cinnamon says that one day Maple said all of it had to stop and that she felt really lonely, and that was the day that she turned into a pervert. After the reminiscing, we have the Cinnamon and Maple E-scene. Man, like, the Minaduki household is a super fucked up place, isn't it? Not only is the dad beating up Cashao and sexually abusing Shigure, the Nekos are also doing it to each other. Now, because the Nekos are a weapon of social pacification, they have been programmed to be instinctually overly sexual to other humanoids. I guess Maple's programming was just a little off because instead of going for a human, she went for another Neko. I mean, I guess that works because basically it's the same ratio of proportions. The next day, we have Cinnamon practicing with the Nekos before Maple freaks out about Cashao suggesting that she put on a real show. And because Maple is the voice of reason, she says that there's no realistic way she can do that. Later on, Cashao goes to check up on Maple, who's on a delivery, so the whole "I don't believe in myself" part of Maple's character arc can happen. Then the script is flipped as Cinnamon is the one telling Maple not to give up on her dreams. The next day, Cinnamon and Maple are out dress shopping, and even more big boob humor ensues. Once they are done shopping, Kasho says that Cinnamon and Maple are like little sisters to him, and Shigure says that they can't do anime songs because this is a formal event, and this catches Cinnamon and Maple off guard. The Nekos spend the rest of the day trying to figure out what song to do. Really, the only thing that happens until the Nekos choose a song for the show is that there is a mostly pointless scene that goes on for way too long of Kasho walking in on Maple in the bathroom. On the day of the show, Kasho runs into his friend from college who is hosting the show, and she asks Kasho just how many years has it been. This statement is making me think that Kasho is actually somewhere in his mid-20s instead of 18 to 19 years old as in my previous estimate. We eventually get to see the rest of the Nekos in dresses before the Neko racist shows up and starts talking a bunch of shit, and Kasho almost assaults the guy. Then the show finally starts, and I hope you are noticing something that I noticed right off the bat about the show being put on. Like, there's no guitar at all. Neko works loaded Chekhov's rifle at the end of the first act and then never fired the damn thing. After the show, Kasho congratulates Cinnamon and Maple on a job well done, and this causes them to start crying, and this also leads to the first H scene of Cinnamon and Maple. The next morning, Shigure finds out that her final solution has come to completion, and Azuki hesitantly asks Maple if they've become sisters, and then says, "Congrats? I guess? Maybe?" Then the story starts to spin its wheels for about 20 minutes before the last H scene happens, and then the credits roll leading to one last scene of Shigure taking a picture of everyone. This is when Chocola exclaims that this is their Catpanion anniversary picture. Wait, this is their anniversary picture? So you're telling me that all the events from Volume 0 to the end of Volume 3 all took place in about 1 year? Okay, so remember when I said I was going to gripe really hard near the end of this video? Well, the art director in me finds this picture of the intro to the first H scene to be incredibly aesthetically displeasing, and for only one reason. Now, Sayori, I don't know if you accidentally skipped out on the first day of Hentai 101, because you're not supposed to draw the guy's eyes in these shots. You're supposed to hide that shit under the shadow of his hair. I mean, come on, Sayori, you're throwing me off here. You can't see Kasho's eyes in any other picture. Even in the last shot of Volume 3 where you can see his entire face, his eyes are still closed. Alright guys, thanks for listening to me ramble about hentai for fucking like 40 minutes or however long all 4 parts of these are together. Put your guys' waifus down in the comments. Husbandos are also welcome. And as you can see, I have ranked the Nekos from 1 to 6. Put your ranking in the comments if you are a creepy guy like me who also likes Nekopara. And I don't know, but I probably got some more cat girls coming onto the channel in the future. So, yeah, tune in next time. See ya.